So Mr. Nick Pope, in the middle of our goal, is starting to come under a little bit of criticism. Is Eddie Howe just one of them managers who's just too reluctant to change a side that he trusts? And that academy and that substitutes bench does not fill us with much promise. Let's hope that Amanda and Mairdad correct that the sooner the better. There's a fair few talking points to come from that game on Saturday as we go into another busy week of matches. It's the last word, Newcastle fans, so do us a favour. If you're a little bit curious, you know what to do by now. Stick around! Welcome back to Black White Banter, you lovely Newcastle fans. I hope all is well wherever you are watching this from, assuming you are a Newcastle fan. If you're not, thanks for joining, but I'm going to be talking about everything Newcastle related, so if you've got no interest in Newcastle United at all, stick around anyway. You might learn something new and you might become a black and white by the end of this. Whether you were coming here for a bacon show, whether you were just killing some time on YouTube whilst you were taking a dump, welcome. And whilst you're here, whack that little likey loo. That goes a long way. And whack that subscribe if you like my opinion by the end of this video. Even if you don't, you know, just hit the subscribe. Again, doesn't really cost you anything. Goes a long way for me. Makes me feel good. Boosts my ego a little bit. Do it. So, here we are. A good point on Saturday. Good point. And I said that straight after the match. And I've been able to allow myself to process it. I've taken some hindsight on the game. I've written my last word. If you don't follow me on Facebook, please do that. That's where I post my very, very long blog post about just the previous weekend's match. I do that every week now. Been very popular. Lots of nice comments about my last word. I do like to write as well as record videos. So yeah, check it out. And then I said on that, in the scheme of things, all things considered, the fatigue that we were maybe carrying from the Dortmund game with pretty much all 11 players starting that match. I know Callum Wilson technically didn't start, but he played most of it. And mentally and physically draining these Champions League matches, I think, for our group of players. An informed Wolves team, hard place to go. Man City found that out. Dangerous players, Pedro Neto, before he got injured, having the time of his life at the moment. We played with some attacking intent. We really took the game to them. We were chasing the game to try and win it at the end. Good point. Good point. Not the massive feeling of 2 points drop that you'd maybe get in a lot of scenarios when you've been leading twice away from home, in my opinion. So yeah, onwards and upwards we go from that. Another game unbeaten. But what were the main talking points? Well, the first talking point was obviously the VAR decision. Stonewall penalty. Stonewall penalty. That was never a penalty in a million years. But the VAR footage from that decision has actually been leaked. Yeah, VAR, yeah, I'm right with you. Sorry, I was just really busy looking at some other incidents from earlier today there. Right, which one's this? Wolves Newcastle. Oh, the Geordies again. Right, no, let me just get it up. Let me just close that down, Oh, tell you the Wi-Fi's been playing up. It's been really bad. I've sent a couple of messages to the FA actually. Right, I've got it up. Oh, it's Fabian Schär. Tell you what, just before I look at this incident, that is one man you would not let look at the pipes when you were at work with the missus in the house, would you? Jesus Christ, you could carve that man's arse cheeks into a statue and it wouldn't look out of place. Am I right? Am I right? There's something about the Swiss, isn't there? I'm looking at the incident. Even when he's not trying to look good, as he's fallen down in the rain, he still looks good. I mean, his hair. What sort of shampoo does that man wear? The incident looks like he's playing for it a little bit, but I would give it. Do you know what? I think with a man like him, he'll get away with it. He will. Just blame it on me. Blame it on me. Tell you what, I'll score some brownie points for my missus if I give this one. Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's asked me to dress up as him a couple of times. Couldn't really pull off the Swiss accent, no. No. It's a tricky one to do. I put gel in my hair to try and make my hair look like his, and I looked like I was back in school, back in the early 2000s. No, it didn't work. I know you're getting back. You what? These conversations getting recorded. Sky aren't playing these conversations. Do you really think I'd be sat here talking about how sexy I think Fabian Schär is if Sky was playing this conversation? Oh shit, Sky, actually, I'll play this conversation. Right, I mean, I was only joking. Yeah. Give the penalty, clear penalty in my eyes, and we'll just leave it at that. Right, you enjoy. Yeah. Is it raining over there? Yeah, it's quite dry here. Yeah, just about order a pizza. Yeah. Enjoy. Fingers crossed it goes okay. Okay, goodbye. Bye. Such a hunk. Well, I mean, you can't really argue with the VAR studio on that one, can you? He is a hunky piece of Swiss cheese. So yeah, sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. We shouldn't be saying that about VAR, but there you go. That's the way of the world. It still needs work done. We know it does. It went in our favour on Saturday. We'll probably get an absolutely horrendous one against us in a couple of weeks. That seems to be how this sort of thing goes. But that's not what I'm going to focus on too much in this video. First talking point that I've seen come from the game that seems to be whispered and murmured between Newcastle fans all over is Mr. Nick Pope. In the middle of our goal, Nick Pope. Ever reliable for us since the start of last season. Helped us get Champions League, the Cup Final, lots of big saves. But after Saturday's game, just for a bit of context, for anyone who maybe wasn't watching the match, he went to come for their first goal, Wolves' first goal that we conceded from the set piece. He then changed his mind and he was massively in, I don't want to say no man's land, that's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but he was not well positioned to make a save. The second goal, there's arguments in the build before the build-up from Wolves that Nick Pope should or have caught the ball rather than punching it when he jumps to reach for it. If he'd done that, that would never have happened. Wolves recycle the ball and then they score what was quite a well-worked goal between the defender and Mr. Chang? I can't remember the player's name. Wang? I can't remember. But it was a very good goal. Oh, sorry. So, because of that, he's coming for a lot of criticism. Lots of people saying he's costing us points. Lots of people saying he should potentially be dropped for Dubravka. Now, I'm going to give my opinion on this. Now, first and foremost, what's annoyed me about some of the comments about Nick Pope from Saturday is if we break those goals down, like I just mentioned, the first goal, one person that nobody is criticising, who I think was more responsible for us conceding that, is Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier did not have a good game on Saturday. He knows that. We all know that. A neutral watching that match knows that. He should not have allowed Lamina to get the header anywhere near what he did. Lamina's not known for his heading abilities from set pieces. He's not even known for his scoring abilities. And Trippier knew. He fell on the floor afterwards, cursing himself. And that was a massive, massive factor in conceding that goal, how poorly we defended that. Yes, Nick Pope makes the decision to come, he then changes his mind. That's not what you want to see from your goalkeeper. And yeah, again, Nick Pope will not be happy with how he dealt with that situation to put himself in the best chance to save it. He wasn't in the best chance to save it. The second one, that's probably what's got the most criticism. Should Nick Pope have caught it? Yes. Was I shouting at the telly, catch it, oh, what you doing? Yes, and I think Nick Pope would have liked to have caught it, but I think what it's also fair to say that played on the player's mind in that scenario, and he has only got a split second, as all footballers do, was the rain. It absolutely lashed down in Wolves on a torrential rain. And I'm not saying goalkeepers' gloves are not capable of sticking to a football and keeping hold of it, but when you are jumping through the air with bodies around you, and you have a decision to make, Nick Pope has clearly not fancied his chances or wanted to take the risk of that ball dropping it at Wolves players' feet for them to tap into an open goal, and he's decided to punch. Now, the power in his punch to say that his arms are pretty much the size of, well, probably my roof. He's a very, very tall goalkeeper, probably wasn't the best. If you're going to punch it, Nick, get your fist through it. But for him to be getting singled out from that is frustrating. Now, Nick Pope, in general, what are my thoughts on him? Every single time Nick Pope gets the ball at his feet, I pretty much have a heart attack in the stadium. And the blokes who sit with me at St. James's Park, I'm like, oh, God. Literally, my heart skips a beat. He does not like the ball at his feet. He is not very good with his feet. And I dare say he might be one of the worst professional footballers when he has a football alongside either his left or his right foot that I've ever seen in my life. For whatever reason, whether he spent his childhood maybe playing cricket as I don't know, something with a ball where he was catching and then he was introduced to football. I'm not going to claim to know Nick Pope's backstory, but that player cannot play with the ball at his feet. And I understand that the way Eddie Howe likes to play a possession style, that does not always suit us. But call me old-fashioned, very much like wing-backs, who are more talked about for what they can do in attacking positions rather than defending. I still like my goalkeeper to first and foremost be pretty solid at saving shots. And Nick Pope does that. And the stats back that up. And I think, again, as Newcastle fans, we have very, very short memories. We really do. And I'm going to put some stats on the screen of Nick Pope's record so far just this season. His save percentage is 70%, just over. That is a very, very high percentage, and he's in some decent company just higher than him. So, for example, Vicario, Tottenham's goalkeeper, who are currently top and flying, he's got like a 79% save percentage, so only 9% higher. Alisson for Liverpool, who's generally regarded as one of the best goalkeepers in the world, in a Liverpool team who are looking pretty solid, has got a 76% shot. And yes, this can be a lot of different factors. The more shots you have, your percentages can be higher. I understand that. But what I'm saying is Nick Pope is a very, very solid shot stopper. And he has got us out of some shite on repeated occasions. And I do not think that Nick Pope is a player that we right now as a football club need to be talking about as being dropped for Dubravka. I've got my own opinions on Dubravka because of the way he forced his way to Man U and the things he said in the aftermath. I've washed my hands with that player as far as I'm concerned, just because of my hatred for Man U. But regardless, based off ability, Nick Pope is our number one. And Nick Pope is a very, very good shot stopper. Yes, he's made errors. You go back to the Brighton game when he kicks it out, and that whole game, that whole goal was a mess. But that performance wasn't on Nick Pope. We were terrible that day. There was the Liverpool handball last season when he missed the cup final. There's errors in there. There is. But how many goalkeepers in world football do you know that do not come without errors? And I look at Saturday's game and I didn't come away from that thinking Nick Pope was the reason we didn't win the football match at all. My annoyance for the first goal was with Kieran Trippier's marking. My annoyance with the second goal was, because he didn't catch it. But when I looked at the weather and took all of that into consideration, he's got a split decision to do that. And on another day, Nick Pope does catch it. He lies on the floor, he hugs the football, and we move on. But I just don't think some of the criticism is fair. Now, whether you like Nick Pope as a goalkeeper generally, that's a different argument altogether. Do I think Eddie Howe is already considering getting a new goalkeeper in future windows? As much as I don't like to say it, because Nick Pope's been so solid for us, and he's English, which is always nice. Yes, Eddie Howe eventually wants a ball-playing goalkeeper. I don't care what anyone says. That suits us. If he can get a balance of a goalkeeper who's a good shot stopper, but also can juggle a ball round, like he could just slot in central midfield, that's what we are going to go for. But I don't really buy some of the criticism. I really, really don't. And some of the criticism from Nick Pope in the aftermath of Saturday's game in particular has frustrated me a little bit. It really, really has. Next point for me has got to be our squad depth and our lack of options in the academy. And I don't want to say Eddie Howe's lack of faith, because we know our academy's been bad for years and years and years. But what Saturday's bench, which blew my mind before the match, before a football had even been kicked, what it said to me was that is where our academy is. That's why Mairdad and Amanda are trying to spend some money. You look at who we had to put out there. Mark Gillespie, who has spent the last 2 years in Cosy Joe's, living the dream, out on the Hoy, pints in the Black Garter at lunchtime, does a bit of training in the afternoon. He has not kicked the football for us, but he is being paid. He must be good for morale, a local lad, whatever. The fact he's had to be drafted in to fill a seat on the bench just tells you everything you need to know. It really, really does. And I look at our academy team that played on Sunday, who started the game, and Eddie Howe clearly does not fancy any of them, because I don't care what anyone says to me, Eddie Howe would be playing some of them players, or at least putting them on the bench when we are really struggling for squad players, if that was the case. And I'm looking, and you've got your Diallos, you've got your Stevensons, Savage. He played against Gateshead in pre-season, a little bit in America, and we've never seen him again. Eddie Howe hooked him off against Gateshead in our first pre-season match at centre-back. We heard he was promising he'd come from Liverpool. There is not a player in there that Eddie Howe right now thinks is solid enough to step up. Yes, of course, Miley's stepped up, and Elliot Anderson has in recent years. But generally speaking, our academy is an absolute disgrace. And I understand there's development going on. I understand we're signing players and loaning them out. Players are coming in thick and fast. We've had lads come in from Ireland, from Scotland, to bulk out that academy and improve us as quickly as possible. But as it stands right now, it's not good enough. It really isn't. If anything really highlighted it to me, it was that substitutes bench of pretty much all defenders, Joe Willock, and 2 goalkeepers. That's what we had at our disposal on Saturday. And it needs to improve. It does. The facilities need to improve. The scouting needs to improve. And one by one, we need to find a way of nurturing local talent. It's all well and good plucking kids from Ireland and Scotland. I want to see local lads like Miley, like Anderson, coming through the ranks and lighting things up for us. And the project that we're on now, that the journey we're on, that should be happening in 3 to 4 years. And if it isn't, something's wrong. Something is wrong. But it was a massive eye-opener, and it was worrying from a squad point of view. Now that brings me on to my next point, and I don't want to make this video, the whole video, about squad. There's got to be the debate about the fullbacks. Now, in the summer window, we know we got Tonali, a lot of money. Unfortunately, not going to be playing for us now. He's going to be a forgotten man by the time he next puts on a Newcastle shirt. Less said about that, the better, though. But where we spent a considerable amount of our cash was on fullbacks. Livramento and Hall. I know Hall's technically on loan, but there is that option to buy there where we always assumed that would be taken up. Hall has had 45, 50 minutes, whatever he had against Man City in the Cup. Livramento has had that full match against Man City, and then obviously bit part substitute. Probably about 20 minutes in total of substitute appearances in the Premier League. Now, I totally understand that Kieran Trippier, one of the top assisters in the league, flying, generally apart from Saturday's performance, he's undroppable. For his leadership qualities, I understand that in the league. Other side, you've got Dan Burn. But surely, if we are going to grow into a football club of success, we have to find a way to be able to rotate squad a little bit. And, you know, you look at all the big teams, the Man Cities, the Liverpools. I'm not going to say the Chelseas. But generally speaking, you know what I'm saying, the bigger sides, they rotate players, they rotate fullbacks, they rotate central midfielders. And one thing, and I say one thing through gritted teeth, because I do not like to say anything negative about Eddie Howe. One thing, and I think it's because he's not used to having a squad in his managerial career so far. He doesn't seem to want to ever change his side. He's very, very set in his ways with a starting 11. And I'm sorry, with this squad, I feel like something has to give. And I know on Wednesday in the Cup he'll make changes. Of course he will. That's expected. It's the 4th round of the Carabao Cup. But then I'm looking to Arsenal on Saturday. I'm looking to Dortmund next Wednesday. We cannot keep playing Trippier, Lascelles, Cher, Burn, week after week after week, game after game after game, midweek, Champions League, Premier League, Cup. Something has to give, and if you're going to put the faith in a player like Livramento for 35 million, and the faith in Hall, one of Chelsea's hottest prospects, who's actually played a lot of first-team football for them, and not bring them in at all. Bearing in mind, Hall and Livramento both offer options going forward as well, more so than what Dan Burn does, by 10 times. Pace, likes to whip a ball in, likes to get a shot off. That's what Lewis Hall brings in that position. Sorry, I've got a really itchy nose on this video. I know it's not nice for you to see, but hey, you get the authentic stuff when you watch my videos. I'm unsure where Eddie Howe sits with his own squad. I really, really am, because if there's a time right now that we maybe need a bit of squad rotation to really help us get through, that's what we thought the summer window was about. Tonali offered a squad rotation, with Bruno and Longstaff. He adds into that. Livramento, him and Trippier. There's some options there for us to mix things up. That hasn't happened. And for whatever reason, Eddie Howe doesn't want that to happen. And whether he was going through that early bedding in process, Livramento played against Man City and got man of the match. He's played for Southampton. He knows this league. He does not need that bedding in process. So it's anyone's guess why Eddie Howe does not want to make changes. I understand Kieran Trippier is probably on his undroppable list. I get that. But something has to give. And I'm really worried that we are treading on eggshells as a squad right now. One more injury and we screwed. I'm watching every game like, oh, God, that tackle. One player goes down holding the leg and I'm absolutely shitting the brick and grabbing the toilet roll. So, yeah, that's an interesting one. I think final point from me going into that Manchester United game, and I'll talk about it on my match preview, of course I will. How you play the next match is anyone's guess. I'm never in a million years ever going to talk about Newcastle dropping a game and throwing in the towel. But I'm smart enough to look at our squad with the injuries we have and know that and probably make more of the statement, would Eddie Howe be that devastated if we went out of the fourth round of the Carabao Cup on Wednesday? I'm not convinced he would. I'm not convinced Mehrdad would be that bothered. I'm not convinced Amanda would be that bothered. And I'm not even convinced Mr. Rumian watching in his palace in Saudi Arabia would be that bothered either. Now, for me, that breaks my heart because I want to go to Man United on Wednesday, win in their own backyard, and absolutely love every moment against that awful, awful lot from Old Trafford. I really, really do not like Man United fans at the club, you name it, everything about them. I love seeing them do so badly, and it's a good opportunity for us to take advantage of that form. I just don't know whether it's going to happen on Wednesday. Newcastle fans, let me know what you think about some of the points I've raised here. Do you think that Hall and Livramento should be playing a bit more? What do you think about the academy? Is it just a case that Eddie Howe is seeing us on a different trajectory to be able to bring academy players in because we're on that next level now? And of course, anything I haven't raised that you took from Saturday's game, let me know. Probably sounded one of my more negative last word videos. I was happy with Saturday's result. It's just a lot of the talking points with Nick Pope, who, yes, let me know your thoughts on him. Squad rotation and squad worries as well. So if you've liked this video, drop down, give us a likey loo, whack that subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one for Man United away in the Cup. Keep the faith, Newcastle fans, because things are still pretty rosy in the garden. How are you, lads?